In this video, I want to continue on the generic methods. And I want to emphasize the quiz question in the generic methods. So we'll just go and skip the previous learning materials and jump into this quiz questions. Let's take a look one by one. And this is the one method prototype, public Y extends comparable Y, avoid my methods, right? In the above code, Y is an example of what generic? And we see this is a type bound generic. So in that case, we need a type bound generic. So why? The reason it is, this type Y, data type parameter Y extends comparable. So it requires the concrete argument, data type argument should implement the comparable methods. Not every method is comparable, right? So when we define the integer, the capital I, the data wrapper integer, all these data wrappers will implement the comparable. But when we declare our own turtle class, and in that case, if we do not implement comparable, do not specifically override the method compared to, that is not good to use for this main method, right? So this is a type bound generic. So I'm going to click submit answer button and go to the next question. The next question corresponding to from 4 statements, choose one statement. What are generic methods? We have 4 options. Generic methods should be defined as a static. No, that's wrong, right? And the generic methods introduce their own type parameters, and that is a good one, right? And the generic methods strictly takes avoid or state parameter types. Wrong. Generic methods only use string as state return type. Also wrong. And if we see here, if we define the data type parameter, if you do not give any constraint as under this data type parameter, in that case, that the data type is just extends from capital O object, right? That is the root class of the Java or C++ or the object-oriented programming. Capital O object class, which is the root class, right? Good. So I'm going to submit that and then go to the next question. The next question, generic methods help programs to avoid creating lots of overloaded methods and rather make one method to use any type of data type. So this is true, right? We see that it's a beautiful things. We don't need to to repeat to use some function, overload some function. This overload corresponding to, we could have multiple functions, and we have the multiple functions share the same function name, but the data parameter that we could have multiple functions share the same function name, but the parameter list are different, right? That is called the overload function. It's different from override function. The override function corresponding to if A class is a base class and B is the derived class. So if A, we do have one function, let me write it down here, right? So we want to see the difference between the override and the overload function. Both are very confusing for many of our students, right? Overload function, override function. Overload function corresponding to, we could have a function, let's just write it down class diagram, right? So we have one class, and in this class, we have a function print, right? And a print, and so this is a function name, and we could have multiple function, same print function, but with different parameter. One is with non-argument parameter list, Another one, we see that it's a string, right? For example, right? So in these two functions, we see the same function name, but different parameter list. That is, we overload the functions. And the generic methods, which help our programs to avoid creating lots of overloaded functions, because we use the generic to treat all these different parameters. We allow the later user use our function to specify correct parameter in correct data type for the parameter, right? Good. And then so the override corresponding to, we have two functions at least, and which is follow the inheritance chain, right? So corresponding to, this is the base case, this is the derived case. And if the base case, we define some function, for example, we define the, still we use a print function, right? And in the function B, provide function B, since it extends from A, so this is the public function. By default, this also have a public print function, right? And if we do not specify that, we will directly use the implementation. We write in the print A and function A print, right? So, but sometimes print B could have its own different function implementation. It's the same function name, but the detailed implementation is different. And we say the animal, every animal eat, right? But the birds, they eat maybe different from the lion, right? So this is just a different implementation of the same function and over the different classes. That is an override. Okay, so this is for explanation is 2. So I'm going to the next question. The next question, type parameter T for generic methods is declared after return type of the methods. We see that is wrong. It should be before return type, and after what you have the access control or some special control, static or not static, public, protected. All this is just no. After you declared this access control, then you can specify data type parameter, and then you give the return type. Okay, so I'm going to move to the next one. Which of the following is a correct generic methods header? So it could have multiple correct answers. So let's take a look. The first one, public T void main T array integer A integer I. And we see it here, it looks good, right? And this is the mean methods. So when you take this one, we see this is good, right? So we need to select that. Nothing is wrong, right? So this data type parameter is after access control, before return type. And all this mean function and the parameter list. So we use the T as the data type for array, right? For array element. Okay, good. Now let's take a look at the next one. Public void mean T, which is wrong, right? Because you use this data type parameter, but you didn't declare that. So this we talk about the generic methods. If we talk about the generic class, that will be different. In the generic class, we specify our data type parameter before any function, which should be in the class declaration in that line, right? So no, this is wrong. Public static int min, and this is the same mistake, right? The data type parameter is missing. And take a look at the first one. The first one is a good one, right? And then let's take a look at the fifth one. That's wrong, right? The data type parameter is missing. Okay, so let's take a look if we have more questions. So that is the last question. And then we finished this quiz question in the generic methods.